What's going on out there, American truckers? Welcome to Trucking with Old Snapper, and I'm your host, Old Snapper. That's my CB handle as well. If you see me out here on the road, man, give me a shout. I love talking with fellow drivers out here and seeing what they got going on and what they're going through and getting to know them a little bit. Anyway, I had to get permission before telling this story on this channel. But I'm not going to use his name because it is a little bit embarrassing. He's an older fella. Normally, I try to keep my channel real positive because as drivers, we're surrounded by enough negativity that, I think it's nice drivers can click on my channel and hear something positive every now and then, with all the negativity we're surrounded by. Well, as you can tell by the title, I'm going to tell you about somebody who lost one of their, or part of their family jewels. Trucking can be dangerous. We know there's different things that can happen. There's been a lot of things I've seen happen over the years. I know a trainer one time who was opening up the doors on his trailer, and this back in the days of manuals, and he didn't make his student pop the brakes. He had a student had the clutch and brake put in. Truck was in neutral. His foot slipped off the brake and the trailer rolled back a little bit. Well, he thought he was okay. It kind of pinched him a little bit, but he thought he was okay. But it turned out he died later that day from internal bleeding, and he didn't realize he had it. He didn't realize anything was wrong. So, a lot of things can happen out here trucking. People get killed. Back in the lot lizard days, people would get killed, different things like that. Robberies, accidents, truck fires, you name it, man. There's 101 different ways as a driver you can get killed or hurt. But anyway, I'm going to tell you about this former student of mine. I trained him, and then he went off on his own. He had been on his own a few months whenever this happened. And I'm going to call him, I'm going to call him George. Let's just call him George. I was trying to think. I don't think I know anybody that I'm close to named George. Let's just call him George. Well, George is up in Minnesota. He's helping out on a fleet up there. Hang on, I got to get a drink of tea before I tell this story. By the way, this is me running empty in the video across Elk Mountain the other day whenever I was headed from Cheyenne over to North Platte to help out on the Walmart fleet. I love sweet tea. Anyway, George is up in Minnesota and he's helping out up there. He's helping on a fleet that's up there in that area. And it was during the winter time, just like this, and it was a little icy, a little snowy, and it was slick. He was walking across the parking lot back to his truck, and he slipped and fell in the parking lot. Well, I wasn't there, so I don't know exactly how he landed, but I'd assume he landed sitting down because he happened to sit on one of his testicles, or both of them, not sure. Well, it hurt him pretty bad. It hurt bad enough he contacted the company, said he needs to see the doctor. They sent him to a doctor up there in Minnesota. Doctor in Minnesota checked him out and said he was fine. And I think they had given him something for the pain, and I don't remember exactly what they told him. What they believed was wrong, but their diagnosis was wrong. So I wouldn't be going to any doctors in Minnesota. They really messed up on this one. Well, a couple of weeks goes by, and the doctors in Minnesota told him that the swelling would go down and everything would return to normal after a little while. Well, it didn't. He calls me, tells me what happened, and this is a few years ago. And he's like, Snapper, he says, should I do, man? Should I go back to a company doctor? I said, man, you can. Or just when you go home, get checked out, go see your doctor, see if they can get you a doctor at the house, or maybe the company will allow you to go to your personal doctor, whatever the case may be. Well, the company did, I believe. I'm not sure, because I didn't hear from him for a little while. I didn't hear from him for about 5 months. He calls me up one day and he says, "Snapper, you ain't never gonna believe this." I said, "What's the deal, man?" He said, "I'm at the house." He said, "I've been at the house ever since a few days after we talked the last time." He said, "I went to my personal doctor. Personal doctor said my testicle was infected." Excuse me. And they had to take it. That was the only way. It was either that or I was going to end up dying. So they cut it out. I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "You wouldn't think something like that could happen from a fall in a parking lot." Well, sure enough, it did happen. And old Georgie lost one of his family jewels from that accident. And I think he ended up off of work for 8 or 9 months. Besides it being a little peculiar, and it's a little painful to me every time I tell that story, because I don't know, I just can't imagine going through that. But it's something to think about, drivers. There's a lot of things can happen to us out here on the road. And even something as simple as slipping and falling in a parking lot can become something major, if we don't get it taken care of right away. Had he seen a better doctor in the beginning, he might would have been fine. And that's not the company's fault that he was working for. Sometimes you just got bad doctors. It's just like any profession out there. We got bad drivers, you got bad electricians, bad plumbers. But had he gotten to a better doctor, he probably wouldn't have lost baby George down there. I'm gonna call it baby George. So be careful out here, drivers. You getting on and off your truck, or you're walking across the parking lot, or anything like that, be careful. I'm gonna tell you another short, quick story about a student of mine from about 10 years ago. Oh man, I think I was at Stevens Transport at that time. Maybe longer than that. Maybe 12 or 13 years ago. Anyway, we were in Michigan, and you're supposed to use 3 points of contact, climbing off the truck, all that stuff. He had this habit of opening his door, hitting that first step, and jumping to the ground. He was a tall guy, He was young, and he just hop. I kept telling him, man, I said, "You're going to regret that one day." And he'd turn around and come out of that truck correctly. Well, we were up in Michigan, and he went to do that, and when his foot hit that top step, it slipped, and he didn't have a hold of the door, he didn't have a hold of the rail or nothing. So it came out from underneath him, and he hit the back of his head on the edge of the step. He ended up in the hospital, and I don't know what all happened to him. I never did get him back, and I lost contact with him. I don't know if he made it, didn't make it. Nobody ever told me, and I just don't know what happened. But I know it was pretty bad, and I heard the crack. It sounded almost like when you're checking a watermelon and you tap it, in the grocery store. Take that and make it louder. That's what it sounded like when the back of his head came in contact with that step. It sent chills down my spine when I heard it. I climbed down out of the truck, and when I went around there, I fully expected to see his skull cracked wide open. Well, his skull was open. I mean, there was blood running down the back of his neck, and he was out of it, real confused, and all that kind of stuff. He really didn't know where he was at. I kept asking him questions, and you could see the anxiety and worry in his eyes because he couldn't think. He was like he just didn't know. So we dialed 911, and off he went. But be careful out there, drivers. And take the time to turn around and come out of your truck properly. Be careful when you're walking across these parking lots. I know at the Western Wear store that's over there at the Midway truck stop there in Missouri on I-70, they've got these little, they're almost like tire chains, but they're for your shoes. You can buy them things, man. I can't remember how much they are, but especially if you got any balance issues or anything like that, you might want to get a pair of those. I've got a pair of them. You know, I use them when I'm up north. I bought them a couple of years ago, and I just clean them off every time I use them, and that way they don't rust up. But they work pretty well, and they might save your testicles one day. Y'all stay safe, stay out of trouble, be kind to one another. Remember, we are all family out here, even if we are dysfunctional at times. There's no one else out there that understands what we're going through in this truck other than another trucker. So if you got a problem, you find another trucker and reach out to them, because they're the only ones that are going to understand. There's not too many careers out there like ours. Thinking about y'all. I appreciate y'all for watching. Let's keep trucking.